You are 14 years old, standing on a dock in a city that isn't yours, learning a craft that was totally unknown to you until now. Murano Island doesn't let its glassmakers leave, not alive, not with what's in their heads. The furnaces here burn day and night, fed with secrets more dangerous than fire. And you were sent here to steal them. Not with a sword, not with threats, with patience, with apprenticed hands. Here's what nobody tells you about being a spy inside the world's most beautiful prison. The longer you stay, the less you want to leave. This is a story about what happens when the cage you were handed turns out to be the only place where you felt ever truly alive. And about what you are willing to save when everything finally catches fire. You are 10 years old when you first see Murano glass, a goblet on a French merchant's table that catches candlelight like a trapped star. The man who owns it laughs at your village's crude, greenish bottles as heavy as stones. That night, a stranger in a dark cloak offers your father money not for glass, but for you. You do not know it yet, but he is buying you a life as a thief of secrets. The stranger tells your father he will make you a craftsman in Venice where glassmakers are treated like princes. He doesn't mention that these princes live on an island they are forbidden to leave under threat of death if they share their art with foreigners. He doesn't talk either about the council that hunts defectors across Europe when they try. The journey south is a blur of cold passes and crowded inns. He teaches you to memorize measurements, to notice colors and flames, to remember the feel of sand between your fingers. Eyes first, hands later, he says, rapping your knuckles when you reach for tools you haven't earned. You realize you are not being trained to make glass, but steal it. They ferry you to Murano at dusk when the island glows like a line of small suns along the water. Your escort points at the glowing windows and says, "There, your school, your prison, your fortune." Your master is a man with soot ground into his wrinkles and eyes that reflect fire. He looks you over like a piece of flawed glass, then shrugs and tosses you a broom. All day you haul wood, empty ash, carry buckets of cullet while the real apprentices gather molten honey on their pipes. At night, the door to the workshop locks from the outside and the masters drink wine in a courtyard you are not allowed to enter. You hear their laughter through the shutters, talking about secret recipes passed from father to son like crowns. In the dormitory, another apprentice tells you he was born here and will die here, even if kings beg for his work. You realize the island is not just surrounded by water, it is surrounded by laws you can feel tightening. One morning, your master finally shoves an iron rod into your hands with a deep grunt. He guides your grip as you gather a small, trembling blob from the furnace. Your first secret comes from the woodpile. Your master rejects certain logs with a single glance. You watch as he burns only alder and willow, never pine, never oak, controlling the flame as carefully as the glass. You mention this in a casual note that you hide in a priest's confessional stall, coded as a prayer. The second secret arrives as a smell, the bitter tang of Syrian ash your master adds to the mix. He calls it soap for glass, laughing as the impurities boil away and leave the melt clear as spring water. You memorize the sack's markings, the proportions he weighs out with his calloused hands. Each new detail you send across the sea feels less like a victory and more like carving pieces off the man who taught you to hold a pipe. A rumor sweeps the island like a draft through the furnaces. A master tried to flee to the Duke of Milan and vanished on the road. Some say he made it to a foreign court, others that Venetian agents reached him first and left his body in a ditch. Your master only mutters that secrets are heavy things. They either sink you or they sink everyone who touches you. He looks at you a beat too long and your stomach knots. You understand that if you are discovered, it will not just be your neck on the block. Despite yourself, you begin to love the work, the hiss of glass on the marver, the slow birth of a perfect curve under your breath. You learn to spin thin canes of color inside clear crystal until they look like frozen lightning. Clients come from across Europe to watch your master's pieces emerge, whispering that Murano glass is worth more than gemstones. You feel pride, but it terrifies you more than any threat. You are finally allowed to read the recipe book, pages stained with ash and sweat and margins filled with tiny notes. He tells you about the first crystal-clear glass, about secrets that shaped empires and paid for wars. You stare at the open book and realize you are supposed to copy it for men who will never set foot on this island. You eventually decides to start sending half-truths. Your letters describe techniques that work, but leave out the tiny adjustments you know are everything. Your handler will never understand why it shatters when they try to stretch it too thin. On the island, pieces leave the furnace flawless, and your master praises you. You live between two betrayals and hope they never collide. They collide when a Venetian official arrives with 2 guards and a list of names. A rival workshop has been copying your master's designs too precisely, and the council suspects a leak from within the guild. They question everyone, including you, asking where you came from and who brought you. The answers are carefully chosen, balancing truth and omission. When they leave, one guard looks back at you as if measuring the length of rope you would require. That night, a fire breaks out in the workshop across the canal. Sparks leap from a neglected furnace. You run with buckets and wet clothes, shouting instructions in a mix of languages you barely know. In the chaos, you use a trick you learned to smother the blaze, starving it of air instead of feeding it with water. At dawn, half the roof is gone, but the furnaces and the recipe books are still there because you, the traitor, saved them. The next day, the official returns, not with accusations, but with reluctant gratitude. For the first time, the chains on your life feel thin enough to test. You contact your handler one last time and tell him the full truth, the fact that you cannot simply walk away with a book under your arm. He offers you an escape plan anyway, a boat at midnight with a smuggler paid more than your life is worth. If you don't come, your village will pay. Taxes can crush people as effectively as any sword. When midnight comes, the boat leaves without you. You chose to stay. Instead, you go to the magistrate and confess about the rival workshop copying designs. Your punishment is harsh but survivable. You are banned from the furnaces and sentenced to years as a rower on a galley. Murano keeps its secrets, and you end up losing the only place that ever felt like both cage and home. On the galley, you teach other prisoners to melt scraps of sand and ash in tiny pots over cooking fires, forming crude beads and cloudy baubles. They will never rival Murano, but they carry the idea that glass can be coaxed from almost nothing if the hand is patient. Years later, other men refine those ideas and build furnaces of their own, chipping away at Venice's monopoly. You die knowing that somewhere, people drink from goblets that exist because you refuse to let anyone cage own the fire. You are born in the 13th century Venice. The sea is your cradle, but poverty is your birthright. Your father ferries crates for merchants. As for your mother, she mends nets. The grand palaces lining the canals, they might as well be in another universe. Every day, you watch gondolas glide past carrying merchandises. But one day, someone whispers about Murano, an island where sand turns to treasure, where fire itself definitely bends to human will. Your father calls it madness. He says that this is for guildsmen only. But you've already decided you'd rather risk burning than fade unseen. At the age of 12, you step onto a boat to Murano. The island greets you with the roar of the furnaces, a sound you'll love and fear. Your master, old, stooped, eyes like chipped obsidian, stares at you. "Fetch wood," he says. "That's it. No welcome. just endless wood. The apprentices mock you. They call you boat rat all day long. The old man forbids you to practice, so you study what you can. Then one night, while your master snores, you dare to touch the iron rod. You dip it into the furnace, turn it slowly and watch a bubble form, perfect, alive. For the first time in your miserable life, you hold beauty in your hands. Days turn into years. You learn the rhythm of molten glass. Each day, you master one tiny secret. You are on the right path. You enjoy coloring glass with cobalt. None has your accuracy. Your burns heal into scars that tell your story better than words ever could. At 19, your master calls you maestro, not out of affection, but respect. You are the main subject of the annual Elders' Council of Murano. But success in Venice is not so great. They forbid glassmakers from leaving Murano. They fear you'll steal their secrets. Anyone who tries to flee, hunted down. You thought you'd escaped poverty. Instead, you've traded freedom for fire. You created a diversion with an explosion to distract the guards watching the docks. You slip away by boat, heading east toward a new chapter of your life. The sea is black as obsidian and the furnaces of Murano burn like stars. You arrive in Constantinople, the rival empire that would pay a fortune for your art. Years pass. You teach them your art, shaping glass mosaics that light the walls. Your fame spreads rapidly. Coins pile up accordingly. You sleep peacefully, far away from the stench of smoke of the furnaces. But one morning, Venetian agents find you. There's no escape. You're dragged back to Murano by a couple of agents to face your treason. They eventually offer you a deal. Work for them, and your betrayal will be forgotten. You agreed to the deal they offered, not for mercy, but for legacy. You keep designing glass more flawless than diamond itself. Goblets so thin, nobles hold their breath when they drink. You take your last breath of life in a workshop where it all began. Every piece of glass in the Republic carries that breath within it. In a world ruled by fire, you learned how to burn and still shine. Your story begins within the cold stone walls of a monastery, tucked amidst rolling hills and whispering pines. From the moment you arrived as a young novice, ink and parchment became your world, while others toiled in the fields every day as a daily task. You sat bent over candlelight, tracing letters shaped centuries before. Each stroke of your quill carried the weight of tradition, devotion, and eternity. In those early years, silence was your constant companion. The only sounds were the gentle scratching of pens and the rustle of turning pages. You learned meticulously the sacred art of copying holy manuscripts. Patience became your virtue, precision your prayer. One winter morning, a royal messenger showed up at the monastery. The king was impressed by a treatise written in your careful hand. He summoned you to his court to serve in the royal chancery. Leaving the monastery was like stepping into another world. A wonderful world filled with light, voices, and power. At court, you became the unseen architect of royal decrees and treaties. Your ink sealed devastating wars between kingdoms and ended them. Words you penned dictated taxes, marriages, and deaths. Yet, despite this influence, you remained in the background. You are a ghost among nobles, your power hidden beneath layers of parchment. Over time, you learned that ink could be sharper than any sword. Through observation, you mastered the subtleties of diplomacy and deception. Some nights, while the court slept, you copied secret letters. These messages were never meant for the public eye. The candle's flame flickered as you wondered. Were you serving truth or ambition? Despite the luxury around you, provided by your scribe's life, nostalgia for the monastery and your fellow monks grew deep inside you. You missed hearing the rhythm of the monastery's bells. You remind the peace of morning prayer in the monastery. Yet, Duty held you fast. You had become indispensable. Years passed, and your hand began to tremble like a leaf. So you train younger scribes, teaching them the same discipline that once shaped you. When your service finally ended, the king granted you a small cottage by a river. That was not far from the monastery where your journey began. There, you spent your final years writing chronicles of your time. Writing chronicles not as propaganda, but as truth. Your quill, once a tool of power, became again a vessel of peace. The traces of your hand remain in every ancient charter. You may have been silent, but through your ink, your voice endures.